The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
That stadium is going to be rocking, and heaven help whoever walks in there to play us.
Sustained effort and violence, you play your ass off.
You're watching the Pirate Preview on the Sports Objective. Join us every Tuesday night on YouTube Live as we're joined by beat writers and other media members as we take a look at what lies ahead for the Pirates. Now, here are the guys.
It is a first down. Pirates.
Welcome into the Sports Objective. We have our Pirate Preview tonight. And with us right now, we have a great one from Mr. Bubba Rosenbaum, all the way from China Grove. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Dave. Hope you are.
I am so excited to get a big game. It's actually, I don't know how our guest feels, but it's kind of like we don't really have a rival in the American, but if we did, it would be the team we're playing this week, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. These programs, I guess, have met 20 times down through the years since 1991, and UCF has clearly dominated the series as of late, winning 6 in a row and 8 of the last 9. But I think this could be a heck of a matchup on Saturday night at Dowdy-Ficklin. And right now, to discuss that, welcome back to the show from the Sons of UCF Podcast, Trace Trylko. Trace, we appreciate your time this evening.
I enjoy talking to you guys and getting this rivalry going again on Saturday.
Dave, you're on mute.
I hit it twice. Sorry. Nothing like a live stream. Trace, we're so excited because our fan base doesn't understand that a 7:30 kickoff is a good thing. Some of our fan base, especially the older ones, would prefer a 3:30 or 12. But I love to have, it's our second game in a week at 7:30 under the lights at Dowdy-Ficklin. I know you guys with the bounce house, we got to feel the same way. It's nothing like a home game to me at like a primetime atmosphere.
You're talking to a UCF fan base that has played a hurricane rescheduled game on a Wednesday. They've had games on Thursday. They've played on Friday, and then a Saturday thrown in there at home. So, 4 nights of the week. And those day games, especially during September, early October in Florida, can be hot. So it'll be good to play at night. But having been to your stadium and seen your team play back in the Hale Perryman game, which I know is a sensitive subject for you ECU fans. It is a rockin' atmosphere, and this will be the first true road test for the Knights outside the state of Florida. They played at Florida Atlantic earlier this year and won that game and hadn't left. All the rest have been at home. So now the back of the schedule, 4 of 6 on the road, and that begins at ECU on Saturday night. I expect it to be a raucous crowd. That is a great atmosphere. It's college football at its finest.
Yeah, Trace, ECU seniors, Sutton Young, he actually works full-time for WITN, one of the local television stations, does an excellent job, but he did a show for us earlier tonight, and no pun intended here, nightmare that you referenced for the East Carolina fans for But, I told him, I said, Sutton, you had to go there. But since he brought it up, we talked about it for a couple minutes. But man, what a game that was. It was all UCF, and then East Carolina made that tremendous comeback, and then UCF did what it needed to do to get the memorable win to win a conference championship. But as you take a look at this ball club for the Knights, tell us about what Gus Malzahn and UCF have going on here in year 2 of the Malzahn era. 5-1, just outside of the top 25, tied for 28 in the AP poll. And one of the things that really stands out to me is the way this offense has been clicking as of late with John Rice Plumlee, the transfer quarterback from Ole Miss.
Yeah, John Rice Plumlee, in some circles, was a surprise winning of that job and had started the season off a little bit rough. You mentioned the loss. That was home to Louisville, a 2014 loss. A lot of Knights fans, no doubt players and coaches, wish they could play that game now again because the Knights are really clicking, and it really started to work for the offense second half of that SMU game. And since then, and all through the last game against Temple, John Rice Plumlee has just been on a mix of running and passing, and he's just been more comfortable in the offense. Very much dual threat. You mentioned an Ole Miss transfer. He's a speedster, and he's really developing chemistry with his wide receivers. Knights have a couple of guys that can run the ball, and the offensive line is gelled. So offensively, the Knights are rolling into this game, and defensively, they've been stout all season long. They may give up some yards between the 20s, but they crack down in the red zone and holding teams under 20 points. And if UCF can go into Greenville and come close to holding ECU under 20 points, I think Knights fans would take that and an opportunity to win the game.
You know, Trace, one of the things that's been interesting to me is the athleticism, not surprisingly for this team. I'm talking about UCF, and we've argued on this show, we think you guys are the best team in the league.
I guess we're going to find out, right? Tulane's flirting in that top 25, and Cincinnati's coming off the strong season a year ago. UCF will travel to New Orleans to face Tulane. They'll have Cincinnati homecoming in a couple of weeks. That game announced as a sellout today. So these three teams are going to get an opportunity to face off and make their claim to be in that American Athletic Conference championship game. And remember, we're just about 6-7 weeks away from, well, Houston was going to dominate the league, right? And they're getting all the preseason accolades, and they've stumbled out of the gate. I guess you can't count them out, but UCF's going to have opportunity. Home to Cincinnati, road to Tulane, but you can't overlook ECU. Don't want to pick up a loss there.
Trace, talk about the development of John Rice Plumlee, dual sport athlete, dual threat at quarterback. He's second on this team in rushing with nearly 500 yards, and he's thrown for over 1,500 as well.
He's really developed of late, and consistency was the issue. His ability to read defenses. He has developed a greater chemistry with his wide receivers. And the running attack is he's part of that rushing attack. He can get that first down with his legs. Right now, things are clicking. He has that momentum going into this game. I mean, UCF beat Temple 70-13 in its last game, and this was a Temple defense. Maybe hadn't faced the quality of opponent of UCF, but was known for its defensive play, and the Knights just broke things open in the second half. So ECU is going to have its work cut out for it on defense. If the Knights, looking to balance attack, that's what Coach Gus Malzahn wants to do. He wants to run, pass, and so far the Knights have been pretty balanced here of late.
And that's one thing that we cannot do is, as you know, last week giving up 17 points. It was 17-0. You can't spot UCF 17 and come back and win that game. Anything is possible, sure, but I really believe if all of a sudden it's 17, it may be 24-0. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't do that against a really good UCF team. And so,
and you bring up a point there that if UCF can jump out to a lead, the confidence that will come from that on the road. But the longer ECU is in that game and the way the crowd will turn and be in its favor, of course, against the Knights, that'll make it more difficult for UCF.
So taking a look at some of the skill talent surrounding John Rice Plumlee, you have guys like Richardson, O'Keefe, Bowser, etc. I mean, there's so much skill talent on this roster. So tell us about some of the seasons that those guys are having thus far.
A lot of those guys you just named right there, Johnny Richardson, Ryan O'Keefe, speed. And that's what concerned SMU when they came into the bounce house a couple of weeks ago. The speed, being able to stay with that, and the Knights showed that speed really was a difference. And you talk about those skill positions. Johnny Richardson's fast guy, running back. You've got a bowling ball in both R.J. Harvey and Isaiah Bowser at running back. They're going to pound at your line. And then John Rice has really developed a chemistry with Alabama transfer Javon Baker, Ryan O'Keefe, who's he's tremendous speedster as well. He's been good, and Kobe Hudson last week, he stepped up. So a lot of weapons. Knights will find the tight end when they need to. And as I mentioned, offensive line starting to come together. It struggled early on, but the Knights have found their groove here to the 5-1 mark so far this season.
And Trace, you were talking about Johnny Richardson. I remember former coach Scotty Montgomery was heavily recruiting him, and I was hoping we had a chance at him. We knew that he had a lot of great talent, and he goes to UCF and done a great job for the Knights.
Yeah, that's a good one that the Knights stole from you guys.
I don't know if we really had a chance, but certainly I give Scotty Moe credit. He did know talent there.
Now, Trace, taking a closer look at Ryan O'Keefe, he's a guy that the Knights like to get the ball to him in a variety of ways. So if you would touch on that, I'm not only, whether it's catching the football, maybe jet sweeps or what have you.
Yeah, and also involved in the return game. Coach Malzahn and staff have said, how can we get Ryan O'Keefe into the game as much as possible? He's been dinged up, a little bit of injury over the course of the season, but appears to be back in good health. And you mentioned the jet sweeps, the yards after catch. He's a dynamic wide receiver, can also play a threat in the return game. So who do you defend? How do you defend all these guys? That's going to be interesting to see how ECU's defense can line up with the speed that UCF has.
And as far as just for Pirate fans, Isaiah Bowser transferred from Northwestern. He's coming off an injury, and he's reached pay dirt 9 times this season.
Yeah, they've used him a lot in that Wildcat package. So if you see him line up towards the goal line, you might expect that. His career in college has been marked by some injuries. He's just a bruiser, a good blocker, and he throws himself into every play. Came back this year in the offseason, tried to firm up his fitness and worked on yoga and such to remain more limber. And so far, so good for Knights fans. But it's good to see also the return of running back R.J. Harvey, a compliment to Isaiah Bowser and Johnny Richardson. He had come off a serious knee injury last year, missed the whole season. And he was really going into that campaign, likely your starting running back. So multiple threats for the Knights in the running game.
I mentioned Ryan O'Keefe for Pirate fans, 28 receptions, 364 yards, 4 touchdowns, also those 9 carries for nearly 100 yards. But also at wide receiver, talk about the presence of Alabama transfer Javon Baker. He's had a heck of a year to date.
He, especially in the early going, developed a tremendous chemistry with John Rice Plumlee. So much so, John Rice was really only looking for him a lot of times, but he has come up with some spectacular catches and been a tremendous addition to the Knights. Another fast guy, great hands, and definitely a threat. So again, back to this. If you've got Ryan O'Keefe there, you've got Javon Baker there, and the Knights are going to pound the ball. This is what leads to 70 points against Temple and a decisive win the week before against SMU.
And just a couple moments ago, you referenced the offensive line, and that's something that Coach Mike Houston for East Carolina talked about in his weekly press conference, just the presence of those 2 transfer offensive tackles. So tell our viewers about them.
Yeah, the Knights have started to gel on the offensive line, given John Rice Plumlee more time, and they've come together as a unit. They struggled early, though, and they've got a couple of returning guys that have been a force for them. Sam Jackson, Matt Lee at center, this is a unit, though, that is still coming together, and it's going to be interesting to see how much better they can get over the course of the season. They've cut down on penalties that cost the Knights a couple of scores early on in the season. And just let me mention that mistakes that between turnovers and penalties, it kept teams in games that really contributed to the loss against Louisville. And UCF has been able to cut down on those sorts of mistakes. And this, when you eliminate those mistakes or reduce those mistakes, you're in a much better position in games. So for the Knights, that has been important of late.
Switching over to the defensive side, you talked about how impressive they've been not allowing more than 20 points in a game, holding SMU to 19. So tell us about some of the key personnel and some of the guys that have really been making a lot of plays on that side.
Well, returning linebacker Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste, pay attention to him. This was an area where Knight Nation was concerned about the linebacker core, and they have really stepped up. Jason Johnson, notably a transfer amongst that group that has stepped up. Again, the Knights have not buckled in the red zone. They have kept teams out. Georgia Tech, when they came to the bounce house, they 0 for 5 in the red zone. The Knights rolled all over them, rushed and ran all over Georgia Tech and kept them out of the end zone. And then again, we talk about this still as mates in the American, that Power 5 designation. It's still a Georgia Tech team that, right after UCF fires its coach and beats Pittsburgh on the road. So, this is not a team that, they've had their struggles, but they still have talent. And you could see that on display against Pittsburgh. So the Knights have been strong against the pass, and things have been good along the line. It's really, though, the linebacker play that has been an early season surprise for the Knights, because that was an area of concern.
Talk about how UCF's been in the turnover battle. East Carolina, the Pirates have taken care of the football pretty well thus far through 7 games, having turned it over just 7 times. They've forced 9 turnovers, so ECU is +2. Where does UCF stand in that important stat?
I think in talking with defensive coordinator Travis Williams at his media availability on Sunday, it's an area that the Knights would like to do more in turnovers. But they keep saying, they're not tracking sacks. They're tracking, does the quarterback get rid of the ball fast? And is it an incompletion? So I think turnovers are something that Knight Nation would like to see UCF do more of. But again, how do you argue with a team that has kept teams under 20 points, a defense that has kept the Knights in games even when the offense has struggled? And that goes back even to last season under Travis Williams. It's been a big change for the Knights. Previous regime, Randy Shannon is defensive coordinator, to now Travis Williams. Knights have been much tighter defensively. They keep talking about keeping the top on coverage, not giving up deep plays, and so far so good on that. But turnovers are something that they certainly would like to see more of.
Taking a look at the special teams, depending on which phase of the special teams for East Carolina you're talking about, it's been a struggle. Specifically the PAT field goal team, the Pirates, have failed to convert on 6 PATs, which is just a mind-boggling number. And then also East Carolina, has had its struggles at times in the punt game, but not nearly as much as with that PAT field goal unit. And the coverage units have been pretty sound and, mediocre in the return game, especially, on the kick return side. So you talk about guys like O'Keefe and Richardson, tell us about the Knights special teams from a kicking perspective, and then also the return aspect.
What's interesting about the Knights going into this season is that they went in with a starting kicker, Daniel Obarski, a senior, who has struggled, no kicks over 40 yards, and a senior punter on a lot of watch lists in Andrew Osteen. And there was a blocked punt early on in the season. Daniel Obarski missed a 32-yard field goal that might have put the Knights up 17-7 on Louisville. And then Coach Malzahn and staff, they went in a completely different direction. They went with a true freshman, Colton Boomer. You got to like that name on a kicker, Boomer. And he was 10 extra points last week in the 70 points that UCF put on Temple, and he's had some 40-plus yard field goals. So what was a negative for UCF, what maybe not only coaches, but certainly Knight Nation, was lack of confidence in the kicking game, suddenly has proven to be an asset. Also the change at punter, but as Coach Malzahn said a couple of weeks ago, wouldn't be the last we see of Andrew Osteen. He has come in situationally at punter. Mitch McCarthy, the Aussie, is more of a rugby style kicker. So you'll see that traditional rugby style play, punt from him. And it's been a big change, a great deal of confidence. I think it's the change in college football that we don't see as many threats for kickoff returns and punt returns as we used to. So it's been some years since the Knights have had those kind of big breaks, and you'll see any number of people. And one to keep an eye on is a true freshman in Xavier Townsend. He's got tremendous speed, and they've used him in the punt return game. So Knights are still waiting to break one. Maybe it'll come this week in Greenville.
Now, as you take a look at this UCF team, having seen, I'm sure, every play of every game, as you go into the second half of the season, what's a thing or two where you really feel like, okay, we need to tighten this up if we're going to win a conference championship and maybe, even go to a New Year's Six Bowl?
Well, a couple of things. UCF, the 4 games that they lost last season were on the road. All 4 of those games at home this year. That revenge tour got off to a bad start with the loss to Louisville, and the Knights have avenged the loss at SMU. They will also, have Cincinnati and Navy, which were 2 losses last year. We talked about it before the show started that the front half of the schedule loaded with home games. Only 1 road game at FAU. So now 4 of the last 6 are on the road in a tough environment in Greenville. They also go to Memphis, and they go to Tulane. And then South Florida over in Tampa, but we consider that a de facto home game over in Tampa, just as we thought of FAU as being that. So how do they do on the road in a true road situation? And then the continued development of quarterback John Rice Plumlee is something to watch for. Of course, you can't account for what injuries may occur, but the Knights have shown depth not only at running back and wide receiver, but it is as the offense goes, because the defense has been tight and stout. But if we see a return to some shaky form from John Rice Plumlee, missing wide receivers and not reading defense as well, then that will keep other teams in the game. So it's really, right, it's football, right? If you don't create those self-inflicted wounds, the Knights will be in good shape down the road. That's not to suggest that there's not a stumble somewhere on the road. I think most Knights fans thought 10-2 was reasonable and might have circled a Louisville or Cincinnati at home as a loss. And then one of those 3, Tulane, Memphis, or ECU, as being a road loss. So I think for the tone of the second half for the Knights is the consistency of the offense and how it plays in a hostile environment. Probably the most hostile that they'll face, because, Tulane, small on-campus stadium, they don't draw big crowds, and Memphis is a big cavernous bowl. So of the 3 there, the best road environment will be at ECU.
And I think having the Knights, we thought the Knights would be cracking into the top 25. I know you guys are right outside, right there on the bubble of a top 25 team. Having that kind of team like UCF, like we talked about, I think there's natural rivalries, and there's sometimes a conference tries to force one, but I really believe UCF is a rival, because we, outside of you guys in the American, really, we have NC State would probably be the biggest one, natural rivalries, that we have. But I think over the years, like you talked about the Hail Mary game, there's certain games like that we felt like we should have won and blew it at the very end. There's, things like that. And then you guys have had a remarkable, run over the last handful of years. And I think that Auburn's probably right now going, oh my gosh, we gave away a great coach. Look at UCF. It's good for you guys and there in Orlando.
It's interesting when you talk about rivals, with UCF moving on to the Big 12 and the way the schedules are booked out. It looks like what has developed of late is that war on I-4 rivalry with South Florida, that may be coming to an end, right? But, as you talk to different generations of fans, a lot of them will say ECU. Those tough contests with ECU, former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel will say publicly he hates ECU for the matchups that they face. And the series is all tied, so it's a tipping point here. What I think is going to be interesting to see is in future scheduling, based on the relationships that programs like UCF and ECU have had across conferences, might that be opportunity to schedule some non-conference games down the line? It'd be interesting to see if those rivalries are renewed. But certainly with UCF being a young program, you've got to put ECU in the mix there as one of the best rivals. Maybe it hasn't been as much of late, and South Florida been a little bit more of late, but I think fans have been around the program for a while remember some painful matchups with the Pirates.
Trace, obviously this weekend you're flying into Raleigh on Friday around lunchtime. So is this your first trip to Greenville?
No. As I mentioned earlier,
Yeah,
and I'll mention it again,
Sorry,
I
I
was
missed
there
it.
for Hale Perryman. We can talk about that game.
Yeah.
I was there as a
Thanks,
fan.
Bubba.
It was a
Thanks, Bubba.
chilly night, and I was on the opposite, where they put the visitors, and it wasn't until we saw the players jumping up and down that we knew for sure that Rashad Perriman, now with the Tampa Bay Bucks, came down with that catch. So that was my first and only. Looking forward to this one. Didn't want to miss this one. Don't know when I'll get back to Greenville, so didn't want to miss this one.
So that shows you that I was trying to block that out when you start. As soon as you said the Hail Perryman, I was, oh gosh, I didn't even hear you.
Yeah, I like Dave referred to it as a Hail Mary, but see, we've got a different terminology for it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what's funny about that game is the redshirt freshmen, when those guys that graduated, when they were redshirt freshmen, they won on the very first game of their career at East Carolina on a Hail Mary, and they lose their last game at East Carolina on a Hail Mary. So at Dowdy Ficklin. So
yeah, that's a bookends of a collegiate career.
Yeah, that's very unusual. But Craig says longest, quietest walk to the car ever. I agree. Craig, at the time I was parking in the Belk lot, and that's across the street, Cross Charles. For those of you that know where that is, like pretty much closest to Greenville Boulevard. And man, that was the longest walk ever. I agree with you 1,000%. That was a long. It seemed like there's games like that you want to get to the car quick, and it seems like you feel like you've parked further than you really did.
Remember the clock management down the stretch in that game was just mind-boggling.
Yeah,
well, that's where I was going with this, Trace, is that was the most sickening part of that to me. Not only do we lose the game, it would have been tough just seeing the loss no matter what the circumstances, but knowing that we had rallied from 17 points down on senior night, and then we had gotten a huge stop and had excellent field position, and like you're about to say, Trace, too afraid or whatever the case may be to hand the ball off and try to move forward. We kept losing yards. I looked at my dad and some other people that were sitting around us. I said, I don't like this. I said, we're giving UCF good field position when they get the ball back, and all they're going to have to do is throw an out or two, and then they're going to have a Hail Mary to the end zone, and we don't defend the deep ball well. And so I think that made it even tougher to accept just because I saw it coming.
Well, actually,
yeah, that was not the posture of a team trying to win a game and close it out.
Right. When you play not to lose, you lose. And by the way, if you take that ball, if you're Shane Carden and you drop back to pass, and where he was, the vantage point he was, if he threw that ball and threw it out of bounds, like over on purpose, it drops it down to, I think Bubba's the numbers guy. I believe it was between 6 to 8 seconds. And so that would have, the problem is that what happened is I think he was told to move he kept moving backwards. And when he did, basically, like Bubba was saying, that gave more yardage and it gave more time for you guys. But literally on that last play, for the Pirates, if he had thrown that ball to the left side, that would have chewed up a lot of clock. And I think we'd be talking about a Pirate victory, and they're not the Hail Perryman that you've mentioned here a few times.
Yeah,
it's probably rude of me to be the guest and drop in a Hail Perryman not once but twice. That's probably not good form on my part.
We were not playing the game, and in fact, Lincoln Riley, now with USC, said that was on him. His clock management was bad, and I think that they thought that they thought there was less time than it was. I don't know, but it seemed like to me that if you throw that ball, you're going to chew up a handful of seconds, and that's all you really needed to make it more difficult for UCF anyway. That was sad for those guys who had worked, really hard and really brought the program, back or even higher than maybe we had been, but in a while. But anyway,
what's the conversation there about this game? What's the fan base's thoughts going into it?
I think the Tulane game, there was a lot of people in the Pirate, I call it the Pirate panic room, with there's some fans on the fringe. It's not all the fans, so let me be very careful. I think the problems we've had at special teams, we've switched kickers to Conrad now. We've had trouble holding. We've had 6 extra points blocked.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
In 6 games.
No, I mean, missed 6 extra points, not 6 blocked, but missed 6.
Yeah, it's been the entire operation, Trace. We've had poorly kicked ones that were just flat out missed. We had it on Saturday. We had a new kicker, Conrad, and so that's something of note for Knight fans. And he did convert all 4 that he had a chance to get off, but on one, punter Luke Larson simply did not catch the snap. So it's been a little bit of everything. The protection has been an issue. That got blocked. It's been an adventure. Fans are either crossing their fingers, praying, or flat out just not watching and turning. It was funny. I heard someone say on Saturday that after we scored, and this was actually in overtime, they'd forgotten the overtime rule changes. So it was in the second overtime where you have to go for 2. They had turned the TV off because they couldn't bear to watch the extra point, and then they turned it back on. We had failed to convert the 2-point conversion, and they thought we missed another PAT.
Yeah, that's been the biggest puzzle, the enigma of 2022. If you want to write about it, talk about it, is for ECU is the special teams. Usually our special teams at least decent. It's not like anything like this. So that's been I thought the biggest surprise would be that our wide receiver room would be, kind of lacking. And that would be the story of people we talking about. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I'd be talking about special teams like this. And if you look at it, we had a chance to win the state game when Daffer misses a key field goal there. We had a chance to beat Navy in regulation. We don't do it. We've missed the extra points. So I think for me, when it comes down to it, there's a lot of games like UCF, ECU, Memphis, like last week. They're tight games. There's so much. I love this league. I think that our league is very underrated, and I'm sincere when I say that. And I'll tell that to any national talking head. Look at our league and look at we've always had the UCFs, the Cincinnatis, like the top tier teams, and maybe throw in a Houston every now and then. But now I think you're starting to see the Tulanes of the world. You're seeing the East Carolina starting to come back. You're seeing more of the teams that maybe in the middle of the pack are starting to get better, or some of us that were in the lower part to climb up the ladder, so to speak. And I think that if you have a situation like special teams, it could be the difference of winning. 1 point can be the difference between winning and losing. I mean, I think it's that razor thin.
What do you guys think about the new look American? And we've been talking about rivalry with UCF. Who do you see developing as your main conference rival now?
Well, I'll tell you that our athletic director and the commissioner want it to be Charlotte. That's not going to happen. That's why on purpose, I said natural rivals like UCF. I said that on purpose because trying to force 2 teams to be a rival doesn't make it a rivalry. Right. I have nothing against Charlotte other than I will say that the only reason why they're in the league they're in is because of the market size. It's not because of their program. When you have a situation like us, when we're towards the top of attendance, 40-some thousand, usually in that ballpark, especially when we're winning, and you have a team that I don't even know what is the capacity, Bubba, Charlotte? It's like 15,000, 20,000?
Yeah, 15,000.
Yeah, I mean, and
they play in the Carolina Panthers stadium?
No, they have an on-campus stadium. It is called Jerry Richardson Stadium.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, to Dave's point, I think they're the first couple seasons, when it was a novelty to have a football program, they really probably drew just as well when they were playing FCS as they did now. I don't have the numbers to back that up, but I know last year that they had their first ever ACC team come to their own campus stadium, and that was Duke. And like Dave said, it seats 15,000. They had, I want to say, 13,800 or 900 for that game. So they had that many empty seats. for an ACC team, and no matter who it is, and it's an in-state one at that. So that's something else.
Yeah, their baseball.
Their best crowds have been when they've hosted App State, and they've had to bring in extra seating because of all the App State fans.
Yeah, their baseball and basketball, I'll tip my hat to. They're pretty good, over the years. But as far as their football team, their football program, that's going to be interesting. I think the most Pirate fans, a lot of them would want to be in the Sun Belt, I would say. But there's a lot of we do have a lot of rivals there, like Marshall, for example. I think that when you look at ODU actually has been a team that's closest to us as far as FBS. I think it's Robert says Tulane and Memphis will be our biggest rivals. Probably so moving forward. And you have to wonder with Tulane, Memphis being two bigger markets, will another conference do that? Our very own Matt Simmons, it says a new look American is a disaster. I think they're going for, there's people going for market size markets, or they're going for, really good football programs. And I think they went hoping that the Texas San Antonio with the Roadrunners, I think that program is going to be, that one's an up and coming program. And I really like them a lot. I think they were going, obviously UAB had a great story. I don't know if that's going to if that'll continue when you don't have Bill Clark. FAU is a great market, but again, that's the only thing. They went for markets, and I think there's a lot of, when you look at the Sun Belt, there's a lot of great teams in there that are natural rivals, like an Appalachian State is an in-state rival that we have a history going back to at least the 70s, maybe beyond that. You could start naming all the teams, but the paycheck is over $7 million per school in the American, and that's going to last for the next handful of years. When the new contract comes up, it'll be interesting to see what the American looks like, and would we be able to still get the same amount of money?
You talk about markets, but it's become so much more about brands. And
Right.
At least from that perspective, I think East Carolina has established itself as a brand and a tough place to play in football. And I don't mean this to say that moving Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF to the Big 12, but it does open things up, right? It becomes anybody's league at that point. And with ECU's pedigree in the league, and why not ECU, right? Why not ECU seizing the American in football?
I agree. And you look at, I think the one thing for the Pirates they're going to have to improve on is the basketball program. The baseball program is very good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
But the basketball team is what's lacking. We'll see if you ever want to have a chance to go to a Big 12 or another conference, you've got to improve basketball. But that's a whole nother show, as they say. But that's the one thing right now that's really hurting ECU is basketball. And I'm a basketball fan, so I'm not one of these anti-basketball people, but that's really hurting the program right now.
One other thing I want to bring up very quickly, Dave, before we move on from this topic, Craig Doucette chimes in once again from the state of Virginia tonight, saying Pirates want to play top-notch opponents. They don't want rivalries with watered-down Conference USA teams. That's just the truth. We need more regional teams. And so I think that's the best way to put it, Trace, is that, the same way UCF would feel, if it was FIU or FAU, someone like that. I think that's probably the best way to describe it.
You mean you're not, chomping at the bit to face Rice? Come on now.
Yeah.
We love that. Well, actually,
You're going to be in a league with a lot of owls soon. Temple, FAU, Rice. And don't forget, before Conference USA, UCF spent 2 seasons in the MAC. So, Eastern Michigan and the like. So I think we understand how you feel about that. But as you mentioned, rivalries develop organically, and you can't manufacture them. And maybe it happens with Charlotte just because you hate one another and there's some good games in the mix, and then something happens. At least it's nice geographically that you do have some opponents that you can see.
Yeah, and I think what you have to do is you have to schedule what we're talking about, the regional rivals that are maybe in the ACC, they're in the Sun Belt, some maybe then they're SEC like South Carolina. some other schools like Vanderbilt. There's other schools that we can play that would be where I think we have a better program, obviously, than the Vanderbilt. They're up and coming, it looks like, maybe, or they're definitely not an embarrassment like they used to be. But what we want is, we don't want Murder's Row for a schedule. But at the same time, I think moving forward, especially the one thing Pirate Nation is, maybe I'm in the minority on, but I really believe we're going to have to schedule to have a resume to hopefully be in the mix when it comes to. I'm just worried about when you're talking about the new look of the American. What if they say the American is not the sixth top conference? You got to have something in there, hopefully, that we could, to do so that we could put ourselves, make ourselves a resume better.
Well, and as you well know, it's not just scheduling the likes of NC State or South Carolina. You got to win those games too, and that helps. That helps your brand. But I do think ECU has carved out a brand for itself, and I think there's an opportunity to really do well in that new look American, and that'd be good for the overall brand. I also agree with you on basketball, despite UCF's sometimes limitations on the basketball court. That Big 12 still took UCF. That has a lot more to do with the up and coming of the football program than necessarily basketball. And this will be an important year for UCF to do well in the American, because it's going to be tough sledding in the Big 12 for men's and women's basketball.
Well, that was one of the things too, Trace, for me, now that you guys are in there, the fact that you have West Virginia in there, you have Cincinnati in there, that's more obviously near us, and that we would have natural rivals. It just seems like to me, and I'm not John Gilbert, the director of athletics, and I'm not picking up the phone and calling the commissioner of the Big 12, but it seems like to me that if you need more East Coast teams in the Big 12, because there's a lot of teams in that Texas, Oklahoma region and all that, but it just seems like to me that you would add more teams East. And to come to mind, I definitely think you would add, if for me, I would add Memphis and East Carolina, because geographically that makes sense, being that we're conference mates. And, as far as and even Tulane, I would add a Tulane in there too. But speaking of markets, New Orleans, but anyway, hopefully it will work out. And like Craig says, truly, we wish nothing but the best for you guys. And we wish we were going with you. And I agree, because I think that, like I said, there's certain teams that you want to play every year. Another team that comes to mind is a Southern Miss, that we had a lot of rivalry. That's a huge rivalry that we haven't had in a number of years, because we left and went to the American. And I don't understand why we're not scheduling them moving forward. Like I said, you guys, there's teams like Pitt and Syracuse from back in the day that we used to play. Don't understand why they're not on the schedule, but I didn't mean to make it a scheduling show with you. But.
Yeah, it's easy to go down that rabbit hole and talk scheduling. Here's what we know, right? The series is all tied. There's going to be a game Saturday night. Somebody's going to leave with that W and that series lead, and uncertainty about if or when the two might play again. So I expect that to be a good game, a tough game for UCF. I don't think ECU's an easy out at any time in Greenville. So I expect it to be a tough game. And we've been talking a lot about Holton Ahlers, of course. We feel like we've seen him for a decade now.
12 years.
So you have a veteran quarterback, and that's going to be a challenge for the Knights defense.
Yeah, and hopefully when it comes to the running back room, hopefully we've got a lot of talent there in depth, but we can't afford to lose another back or two there. That would not be good for the remaining games of the season for here in 2022. So
I've been talking about the speed of UCF, but Keaton Mitchell's nothing to laugh at. He's pretty good.
I'll tell you that not to make comparisons, but he's the fastest back we've had, I think, since Chris Johnson. I don't know if Bubba would agree with me on that, but I think that's the closest guy. Not the same kind of back, but I think the fastest I've seen with naked eyes. I don't have the football background that Bubba does, but just watching East Carolina football since 1986, I would say he's the best since Johnson.
Yeah, the one that I can think of that would be In that ballpark is Breon Allen. Breon Allen that was on that 2014 team. He had the ability to, if you miss a tackle or two, he could, eliminate angles and stuff like what I was going to mention. UCF defensive coordinator Travis Williams, a lot of times is known as T-Will. I was watching his press conference earlier today, and that's one of the things, he was saying that just Keaton Mitchell's speed is elite, and the way he can just eliminate angles and just he gives defensive coordinators nightmares.
Yeah, I think they're definitely concerned about him. They're also pretty pragmatic that he's going to get his yards and he's going to do some things. But as the Knights have shown, they've been pretty stout defensively, especially in the red zone. So we'll let him run around a while if need be, but try and keep him out of the end zone. But he had 3 touchdowns last week, so you definitely want to keep him out of the end zone this week if you're a UCF fan. Yeah,
there's no question about it, and certainly you have to argue the most valuable player of that game for sure when it comes to beating a really good, in my opinion, a really good Memphis team. And they had lost to Mississippi State, and I think it was a 1-point loss to Houston. So 4-2 coming into Dowdy-Ficklen. But like you said, a tough place to play. But, and another thing is when you have a great opponent like UCF come in, it's nighttime. Those a lot of those Pirate fans, hopefully they'll pace themselves and not have beverages. There was a famous game with Syracuse and Bubba. We've referenced that there was a frat. They got 2 frats that got in a fight in 1993. I'll never forget that. And there was the longest time. The only reason I bring that up, they went a number of years that we didn't even have a night game because of it, unfortunately.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. But that was in the early 90s. In 1993, I was a student. That's how old. But anyway, Trace, thank you so much. I'm looking at the time. You've been on with us a long time. I appreciate it so much. How can people follow your work? And obviously love to have you back on. And good luck to the Knights the rest of the way. And we'll see how things work out Saturday night.
Well, the Sons of UCF, my friends Adam and Mike, they do a podcast that drops early in the week. They're recording on Tuesday night to drop Wednesday. And the 3 of us come together every Thursday night, 8 to 9 Eastern. We stream live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. A show similar to this. We'll have former UCF quarterback Nick Patty breaking down the Knights' win over Temple. And if all works out, well, Bubba's going to join us to preview ECU. So that's an hour on Thursdays. You can follow me on Twitter at SignPez and at Sons of UCF and wherever you get any of your downloadable content. And we're on YouTube, of course, and twonightsmedia.com. So thank you for the invitation. I enjoyed the conversation with you. I'm looking forward to another return visit to Greenville. And as one of your folks mentioned, with a long walk to the car, I hope not to be making a long walk to my rental car on Saturday night, but looking forward to the atmosphere and the hospitality and what should be good college football on a Saturday night.
Yeah, enjoy Town Bank Tower. I think you'll like it a lot.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Have a good one, my friend.
Appreciate it.
All right. Good night. Bye-bye. Appreciate Trace very much, Bubba. Great guest. And certainly, I think the atmosphere. Have you heard, by the way, Bubba, I need to call our good friend Coleman Spain, a friend of the program. He's actually the director of tickets for ECU. So we'll have to see how ticket sales are going for that. Call 1-800-DIAL-ECU, or you can, that's the old fashioned way, let your fingers do the walking, or you can go to ecpirates.com. And he was Trace, you were a pleasant guest and informational, and we appreciate him very, very much. And we're going to miss UCF. We're going to miss Houston, Cincinnati, but certainly the relationships we built with a lot of our friends around American like Trace, we appreciate him very much. And hopefully we can keep this series going. It's very sad to see losing the Cincinnatis, the Houstons, and the UCF. So we've been with, and all the way back to the going back to the Conference USA days. So going to miss that very, very much. And obviously we're going to bring in now our dear friend from the Logan era, Mr. Matt Semenza. I think, are you Matt, or have you recovered from Greenville, my friend?
What's up, guys? Yeah, I've recovered. I had a great time. I'll tell you, I had a great time. I really enjoy getting down there it's just so few and far between for me coming from such a distance. I just love getting down there. It was awesome to hang out with you guys, have a few drinks at the tailgate, and thank God we got a win because that made it much more enjoyable.
Hey, Matt, Bubba always talks about, man, I got 3 hours and I got to go back. And then all of a sudden, then there's a guy like Matt Semenza who has to take a plane to get here. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we definitely are excited to have you and your dad. It was so great to see your dad, meet your daughter. It was great to your dad is so awesome, and tell him I said hello. But he's a really cool dude, and I tell you what, your daughter is going to be going. Your daughter's going to be ECU. Just go ahead and tell her she's a legacy recruit. She's going to be here. I have a feeling. I'm going to do anything I can because all I know is you love your daughter as much as I love my daughter. And I'm going to tell you, Matt Semenza will be in Greenville, North Carolina, if she chooses to go to Greenville, because I have a feeling you're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to rent a house here. I'm going to keep a close eye on my girl.
Oh, there's no question about it. And that's the only reason why I pushed the UConn agenda with her, is so I can have a little more control over what she's doing. But make no mistake, if she did choose to go there, I'd be really happy about it. But yeah, I would have to rent somewhere so I could, have my spies all over town checking her, making sure everything's all right.
We got Bubba and I, our friends. I don't know if you know the Ponds, but Brett and Diane, we're going to have to talk to them and say, hey, are there any houses right near you guys there on Berkshire that are right across from the baseball stadium, not too far away from the practice fields, Matt, that we could have so Matt Semenza can rent it, and then we get to hang out with Matt like on a regular basis, like a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a lot of times in the football season and maybe baseball season too. But I think we actually made you a huge baseball fan, didn't we?
Oh, no question about it. I really have grown to love college baseball, in particular ECU, and I was never really into college baseball, but I definitely got hooked on it in the last few years. So credit to you guys on that one.
Well, the only reason why I love college football and I love college baseball is going to East Carolina University. I mean, the Pirate football, I went to a game in 1986, but I'm a huge fan of the recently retired, I hate to even say that, Dr. Gary Overton, a huge fan of Coach O. And they were just always winning. They had that great team in 90. And right before I went to ECU, and John Gass and all those guys were right before me, before I got there. And so and then going to Harrington Field was rowdy. It didn't have the look, obviously, that we have now at Clark LeClaire, but man, oh man, what a great atmosphere that is. Can't wait for baseball season. That's going to be great around the corner. And of course, basketball, hopefully that's great. Before we even get to that, I tell you what, maybe I'm way too optimistic, but I really believe the crowd, it's funny, by the way, Matt, not to mention, we don't hardly ever talk about Nick Saban, but Nick Saban said something, which I understand what he meant, but he was talking about how the fans don't play the game and all that kind of stuff. And I agree with him, but I will tell you something. You cannot deny a place like Dowdy Ficklin. If that place is rocking, it is really hard. Like on Saturday night, it was hard for me to hear in the Boneyard section where I am, or I'm not in the Boneyard, but I'm right in section 2 close by. And that at the fourth overtime, it was very difficult. And we didn't have the fans there by that point that I wish we had. And it was still loud there.
Yeah. I made a comment earlier tonight that the crowd was a little bit sparse on Saturday against Memphis, but the people who were there were loud and into the game, I thought. So they still managed to create a pretty good environment. I really hope, though, Dave, that, this is a huge game against UCF, a huge game. You're talking about an opportunity to get right back into the thick of things in the conference race.
Right.
You're coming off a big win. This is a team we have a lot of history with over the years. Why wouldn't you go to the game? If you're a student or a fan of East Carolina, why wouldn't you go? So I'm hoping this is a game where we can put more than 40,000 in the seats. And listen, numbers get inflated all the time. We talk about tickets sold. That's great for East Carolina. Obviously, the more tickets we sell, but I am really interested in seeing, in terms of environment, butts in the seats, like actual fans in the seats, and make it a great atmosphere and make things really tough on UCF, because it definitely has an impact. When a quarterback's trying to check or audible,
Yeah.
and when the crowd is really loud, it can have an impact on the game. And so I just really hope that we get a good turnout and create a difficult atmosphere for UCF.
No question. And for me personally, I'm so excited about this game. The only thing that's going to suck is I really thought, the first time in the history of our show, we had all four guys together. What a great moment. If you haven't had a chance, I put that picture up on my Facebook page so you can see all four of us together. And Matt, thank you again. I told you privately, but publicly, Matt threw the football to my son, Alexander, who has one more game. He had practice tonight, but he's fallen in love with football. And that meant the world to have a former Pirate player like Matt, who plays the position he's playing. He plays linebacker. To throw the football with him was a big deal. So thank you for that. And the whole tailgate pregame thing, and everybody left. I know you guys had to get on the road, but I was like, after we won that game, I wanted to tailgate. I know it was late. That's probably why, but I wanted to, when we win a game like that, I want to stay there forever. But I know that it's time to go home. But I like this John Mellencamp song. I ain't even done with the night.
Yeah, no, that was one of those games. I was kind of amped up. I could have stayed for a long time too.
Yeah,
if it was just me, but I think the family had their fill for the night. But it was awesome getting to meet your son, Dave. Alex, a great kid. He's got really good hands too, by the way. Really good hands. So that was fun.
Yeah, hopefully we can keep coaching him up. And I tell you what, he's going to be dangerous at basketball. Maybe he can bring the Pirate program up to where we can win a championship. But anyway, I digress. What's your I want to get your take on it, because for me, here's my thing. You and I both are defensive guys. What I'm scared about, and I'll just be straight up, because that's what we do here. What I'm scared of is that it seems to me that we've gone backwards in giving up the big plays this year. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but maybe I'm over dramatic. But the over the top, all of a sudden these big bombs, and we were doing really well against. And maybe it's because we're blitzing so much. I don't know. But what are your thoughts on that? I'm really worried about the big plays on Saturday night.
I am too, and we've definitely given up our fair share. And I think there's just little things that need to be corrected, that continue to keep being corrected. Last year we had some very experienced safeties, and this year we have really talented guys, but maybe they don't have quite the same level of experience. So, and that's not a knock on those guys. That's just the way it is. So, you play a team like Memphis. I mean, I was saying earlier tonight, Dave, Memphis is very complex offensively. They really do a nice job spreading you out, using all their weapons. Hennigan is very good. And I'll tell you, I thought they were really creative. Like, I had a chance to go back and watch that game. The way they would run some of their plays with a delayed drag to the tight end gave us huge problems. And so they did a really nice job. I actually think, Dave, we match up better defensively against UCF than we do. And I'll tell you why. The strength of our defense is in the front seven. We're very solid against the run, and not quite as good against the pass. So, Memphis very diverse in the passing game. I think we actually match up well. And last year against UCF, we played really well defensively.
We blew that game, man, in the fourth quarter. We blew that game down in the bounce house. We should have had that one, and that one in the Houston game come to mind that we blew. And man, we should have had those. But certainly a great time. And what are your thoughts too on I think sometimes people are still too hard on Holton Ahlers, but I tell you what, I'm looking for maybe it's just me, but after that Memphis game, I'm looking for a really big game from Holton Ahlers.
Me too, Dave. And one thing that became very apparent to me last week is just how bad his right shoulder is in terms of the injury.
Yep.
He's hurting.
A lot of folks.
He's hurting. I mean, you could really see it. Like I said, I went back and watched it on TV, and anytime he gets hit on that shoulder, he's feeling it. You got to give him credit. I mean, he's a gamer. He's fighting through injury. You always respect guys that fight through injuries. And this time of year, everybody, I'm sure all of our offensive linemen are banged up, everybody. But I always just respect guys who fight through injuries, and he's doing that right now. And, he played a very efficient game last week, no turnovers. His completion percentage was high. I thought he distributed the ball well. So, I got to give him credit. Like, he's had some outstanding games this year. Outside of just a few critical mistakes that we won't rehash, he's had a really solid year. I think that's what people sometimes miss is they think about one pick here, one interception there that were really costly. But if you look outside of those things, he's had a very good year. So hopefully he can keep building on it and stay healthy. I think that's a big thing. Hopefully we can keep him healthy.
No question about it. And Justin makes a great point. He put the next 4 games are against future Big 12. Thank you, Bubba. Opponents. Let's show them where it belongs. And that's a great point. I hadn't thought about that, but you have with BYU going, I forgot about that. I was thinking about 3, but it is 4. And Matt, I was making the point before you joined the program with Trace that East Carolina and Memphis are 2 teams that should be in the Big 12. And you look at us. That would help us out with West Virginia being in. Will help West Virginia travel cost wise. You look UCF as another one, travel cost wise for East Carolina. So it just seems like it would make more sense to have teams like a Memphis and East Carolina in there that where we are geographically. And you look at the level of football that we have, and there's a thing now, Matt, that as you know, building the brands and your brand, you love the Big Ten. Well. The Big Ten actually is here's an interesting thing I heard, guys, not to get off too much of a topic. I know we're over an hour right now, but this is an interesting concept that I hadn't thought about with the commissioner that they're doing the Big Ten. It looks like that they're doing the national media is talking about, or at least they were a couple weeks ago. It looks like that if you look at every time slot starting at noon for the Big Ten, that they're going to try to get that West Coast, steal more teams to the Pac-12. So basically, you have from the start of the day to the end of the day, it's a Big Ten game on. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, the Big Ten has been very aggressive in recent years in terms of branding, and they're making a big push. So I think it's great. I mean, I think it makes perfect sense. When you're trying to market your league and grow your brand, and you see what they've done in recent years. They went out and got Rutgers, which made no sense to me, but what the Big Ten will tell you is that they were able to capture some of that New York market, which I question that personally, but that's what they say. And then now all of a sudden, hey, look, they're going out to the Pac-12 and they're trying to raid some teams from out there, and they're trying to expand from coast to coast and have a bigger presence. So I give them credit. I mean, I think they're being aggressive. That's one thing we talk about as East Carolina fans. When we had to be aggressive as a program many times over the years, we weren't, and we didn't put our best foot forward. And so you got to give them credit for doing that.
Matt, I'm hearing they're coming after Eastern North Carolina, so maybe they'll pick East Carolina. I'm just kidding.
You could only hope. We could only hope, right?
100. Can you imagine that? $100 million a school.
Unbelievable.
Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable.
I'm joking. For everybody's going to think that I'm like this nuts. I'm not delusional. That was a joke. Matt, you don't understand. I don't even know. I don't know if I could ever talk to Matt again, because he would be beside himself if we were in the Big Ten. So would you like that, to have East Carolina in the Big Ten?
No, he would hate that kind of a payday.
No, I'm not the payday. I'm talking about the fact that that's some the word that comes to mind for Matt is brutal opponents, man. Brutal opponents. And same way with the SEC, when you have that we would be in I would assume the Eastern Division, and man, that's with Penn State, Michigan, Ohio.
Don't worry, it's not happening.
Oh, Don't worry.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm not.
I know you don't think that, but I'm just.
Yeah, I don't have to. I'm not going to lose any sleep over because it's not going to happen. But just that would be great for Matt Semenza for sure. As far as go ahead.
Something I did want to bring up though, something that transpired last week in the Memphis game that could be very key on this Saturday night against UCF. I was looking over it today and just thinking about, we've been pretty good offensively on third down, converting 51% of our third downs, and going against a team like UCF that's so explosive offensively and also is very good defensively. If we can convert anywhere close to that and take care of the ball the way we've taken care of the ball this year for the most part, outside of a couple of exceptions that Matt already referenced, we've in 7 games we've had 7 turnovers. So if we can play clean football and we can, do those couple things well and continue to play pretty good red zone defense, then you never know. We can definitely make it happen on Saturday night, but it is a tall task. But like somebody was saying earlier, I think it was Craig chimed in the comments that said there at the beginning of the conversation, it seemed like we were preparing to play Alabama. And no, UCF's an excellent opponent, but at the same time, yes, they played Louisville at home, and that was, I think, week 2. But I think we're probably there, especially with it being on the road. But I think even if it was in Orlando, that we're as good or probably better than Louisville. Louisville's just so dang inconsistent. And so I think not only are they probably our toughest test to date, and they're probably the most well-rounded team we've played as far as having a good defense, maybe not quite as good as NC State, but having a better offense probably than the Wolfpack. And then so I think this has the makings of a tremendous college football game if we uphold our end.
And guys, as you have it up on the screen for those that are listening, it's going to be on ESPNU again at 7:30. I mean, for those people that were talking about linear, Matt, they're like, we want the games on. We want the games on. Well, you get the game again on the linear channels when you get it on ESPNU at 7:30. And don't forget about our great friends on the Pirate Sports Radio Network with Jeff Charles and Kevin Monroe and Marty Fuhrer and also David Horn. I mean, Marty Fuhrer, man, is fantastic when it comes to the rules and when it comes to everything there on what's going on the field. It just I don't know about you guys, but I listen to the radio and watch television, and I do them both because to me, I don't know how it would be without listening to Jeff Charles. I have to listen to him every single game if possible, for sure.
Yeah, those guys do an awesome job. Jeff, I mean, Jeff was at East Carolina, as long as I can possibly remember being a part
1988, my friend, 1988.
Yeah, I mean, he's just done a great job. Kevin Monroe, Marty, those guys are awesome. And any notion base that this is a game that we can't win, it's completely false. I mean, we are in a situation now where every game, if we play well, we can win. If we don't play well, we can lose. It's just that simple. We have talent, and Las Vegas thinks we have a chance because the line opened at 3. So I expect a very close game. And, if we go out and make plays, if we don't turn the ball over, sounds cliche, is we have to do, when it comes to extra points and field goals, we have to convert. We have to convert. We cannot miss extra points. We can't have our holder drop the ball. This is major Division I college football. You will get beat in a heartbeat, especially against a team like UCF. So if we play well, we can win. There's no doubt about it.
Especially when and so it hurts not to have Rajee Harris, but we have so many weapons, and I will challenge the coaching staff and I will challenge the players like a Ryan Jones. Ryan Jones is one of the best athletes, if not the best athlete on the team. Get open, be ready. I imagine the middle of that field is going to be wide open, and I hope to God Ehlers and him. Not to say that, man, C.J. Johnson. There's so many. I don't know. There's somebody asking earlier. I don't know if it was Robert. Have you guys heard anything? Will Jalen Johnson be back?
He's listed as an or on the depth chart. Hatfield or Jalen Johnson is what I saw. Bubba probably has a better recall than I do.
Yeah, that's really all I had as well, Matt. Just that Coach Houston said multiple times that it's kind of a day-to-day thing, and just believe some lower back pain and tightness. So fingers crossed that Jalen Johnson will be able to play. But looking back to last weekend, that was something that you saw. Josiah Hatfield play 55 to 60 snaps, and then Kerry King play a little over 20 snaps. So it'll be interesting to see what role those guys have, and hopefully we'll be able to get the ball to Ryan Jones and also Shane Calhoun. Whether it's short yardage situations or down around the goal line, or obviously we get the ball in their hands in a variety of situations, but specifically we were talking with Trace as far as the UCF defense kind of at times perhaps being the bend but don't break variety. So when the Pirates are in the red zone, we need to find a way to put it in the end zone, like we were unable to do last year down in Orlando. That really cost us in that 20-16 loss.
No doubt about it. And by the way, guys, one thing that I know drives some of our fans crazy. I want to get your opinions on this. I know Bubba's opinion. I'm not sure about Matt. I think I know. So you win the toss. Do you defer to the second half, or you're going to take the ball this Saturday night?
It's funny. I can kind of go back and forth on this one. I would say in this game, I would prefer to defer.
Yeah, I agree.
I would prefer like against Navy. I wanted the ball. I wanted the ball first. In this game, I would defer, and what I want to do is, have a loud crowd early in the game and try to get a stop and flip the field. That's what I would prefer. And then, I love coming out of the ball. I love coming out of the half, going up tempo. In defense, a totally different look coming out of halftime, because you can really catch a defense off guard. So that's a long-winded answer, but that's kind of what I would think about.
What about you, Bubba?
I agree with Matt there. So along those lines, Matt was talking about the crowd and getting into things early, and maybe creating a false start or two. Kind of a funny note here. When the Pirates did not have a crowd a couple years ago in 2020, when we opened the season with UCF in late September, the Knights, remember how ridiculous that was? What was it? They had like five or six false starts on one possession. It was like something out of a movie.
I was watching that. Back then we couldn't get to we didn't have fans, so they let the media. I was fortunate enough to be in Townbank Tower as Matt's going to sleep now. I'm sorry to bore you, Matt.
You know who that is.
Hey, shut up, dog.
Carmelo.
That's the dog.
He is a great dog. That was I forgot about that, Bub. I'm glad you brought that up. That was the most, and as a Pirate fan, you love it, but at the same time, as someone who loves college football, that was so irritating to have that many false starts back to back to back to back to back. It was like, come on, let me do my Matt. Come on already. Play the football game. Stop calling the flag.
It wasn't irritating to me. It was hilarious. If the Pirates would have done it, it'd have been irritating. It would have been you've been ready to jump off the Green Street Bridge. But with UCF doing it, believe me, if they were going to be more false starts and getting assessed a 2-yard penalty because they were so close to the goal line, that was fine to me. But
what exactly is the Green Street Bridge? Is the Green Street Bridge like 15 feet off the ground? Like what is the Green Street Bridge? I hear this all the time.
So it's past. So you go past First Street and you keep driving, and you go over the Green Street Bridge that's over the Tar River, and you're going north, the northern part of Greenville. And so that's why people say the Green Street Bridge. It's not that far from campus.
Gotcha.
I would say that, Bubba, that's got to be the closest bridge to ECU. Not that I'm recommending anybody or anything. So let me be careful of that, because our
Matt said I just jump off a dorm instead.
Well, that Bubba's lazy. He's just going to jump off the dorm, the top.
But yeah, guys. Going back to my point about third down and how the Pirates are converting at over a 50% clip, you think about Saturday night, I think we're 10 out of 15, which is just tremendous. And then one of the biggest, perhaps the biggest of those, was there in the second overtime. We got sacked, and we were really in a tough spot facing 3rd and 15. And you're like, oh crap, if we don't gain a yard, we're looking at a 47-yard field goal. So then Holton found Zay Winstead on a crossing route, a little drag route, and he made a nice catch and run, picked up the first down, and then that was when we failed to get the 2-point conversion. So we were up 6 going into Memphis's possession. Then they score, and then when they had to go for 2, Chad Stevens, he made a tremendous play. I went back and watched that on Sunday morning, and Chad Stevens was lined up. I want to say he was in a 5 technique, which is on the outside shoulder of the right tackle, and he crossed the tackle's face. And Mike Houston referenced this play today in his weekly press conference, just saying what a tremendous effort by Stevens, because if he doesn't make that play, then it may be ball game, because the Memphis guy may score.
No question about
it. Stevens, I'll tell you, I like what he brings to the table. I think he plays hard. I think he brings good athleticism, and I think that's he did make an outstanding play, Bubba. And I'll tell you another guy, that I liked what I saw from, and it's a guy who's been non-existent this year, was Rick DeBrew. I saw him cave the pocket in at least 3 times, and I think he only was in on 11 plays. So, he should be fresh. I mean, hey, he really hasn't played this year, so he should be fresh. He should be healthy. I think he needs to get some more snaps. I don't know what the situation is there, if this is a disciplinary thing or what, but I'd like to see him get more snaps.
I'll tell you a kid that I really like a lot, and I think he has a huge future, true freshman from Richmond County. I love J.D. Lampley on that line, Matt. My goodness, that guy is a hoss, and I'm a huge fan of his. And if that kid stays healthy, he has a chance to be very, very special. That's just my opinion. But I mean, to be a true freshman, to even play, and the fact that he's got a lot of playing time says a lot. And if you know anything about high school football, as Bubba does, and you probably do, Matt, in North Carolina, Richmond County is huge just about every year.
Yeah, I really, really liked his film coming out of high school, and he is not disappointed, and he has a chance to really be a great player. Give him an off-season conditioning program to really get strong and continue to learn the system. He's going to be a beast.
That's what's so scary, Bubba and Matt, is the fact – I'm glad you said that, because I was thinking the same thing. This is a kid, a true freshman, right out of high school. You're playing at a big level, big boy football, and you're playing at a high level. I mean, to be a freshman, and you're going, he hasn't had the likes of Big John in that weight room as much as we would like to him, because he's, new to the program. Can you imagine what that kid's going to be like by the time he is a senior? Oh my goodness. I just, man, I'm so excited. That's what's exciting. And I want to tell this to the fan base. Show up on Saturday night. I'm going to do a Bubba right now. Go ahead and get tickets. I have people right now. I'm asking, you coming to the game? Are you coming to the game? I'm inviting friends. Sometimes they come to the game. Sometimes they don't. We need the people that are casual fans. We don't need always just the Semenzas and the Rosenbaums and the Richmonds and the Barbers of the world, the people that are on the show. We need people that got mad after Ruffin McNeil got fired and haven't come back. We need you back. That's who we need. We need those people back. Come on. And what do you have? I always say this, Matt. What do you have better to do on a Saturday night in Greenville than go to a Pirate game? That was so exciting. My kids, 8 and 9 years old, were so excited. My girl was playing the Switch, right? She's playing a Switch. She hands it back, and I looked at her and said, "Why did you hand it back to me, baby?" She said, "Dad, I want to watch the game." And I was like so excited because that's my baby girl, and you know how video games are, Matt, and technology. But that's the kind of atmosphere you have is when you have a little 8-year-old girl who would rather watch the game to play a Nintendo Switch. That's a huge compliment.
It definitely is. No question about that.
So, guys, before we get out of here, I know we have the line. Has the line gone up, is my understanding, to like 4.5 or 5, or is it? I heard it's gone up as far as in favor of UCF. Can somebody help me out on that? I don't know. That's what I'd heard.
Yeah, it did. It went up, Dave. It opened at 3, and I saw earlier today it was about 4.5. So
Okay.
It's gone up a little bit. I think to be expected, but hey, we're still right there.
No doubt. And Bubba, you know this. Just because it's a 4.5 point favor doesn't mean we can't win. And then this team needs the support of Pirate Nation, and hopefully they'll come out and watch the game.
Yeah, and that's something I was going to bring up in a minute as far as the crowd. But going back to the defense, this is just kind of a eye-opening and a bit of a mind-boggling statistic to a degree, and that is, our leading tackler, Gerard Stringer, has 39 tackles. We've played 7 football games, so I think that's, it's a sign of the way college football is played now compared to what it was in several years ago. When you would see guys over the course of a season have 150, 160 tackles. For instance, Matt, Mark Libiano, Robert Jones, Jeff Carr, those guys that had well over 100 tackles. And so not only is it the way football's being played, but then also it also is a sign of our depth. Because you look at it, we probably have, I don't know, 12 to 15 guys with at least 20 plus tackles. It's just odd to see that fewer tackles as your leading tackler. But you think about how many guys we play on that side of the ball. So that's what it's a reflection of, as well as just the nature of the game and not nearly as much running as there once was, like when Robert Jones or others were piling up all those tackles. But yeah, Dave, going back to the crowd, show up, Pirate Nation. I mean, this is an opportunity. The biggest thing, hey, the Pirates are playing. It's the next to last home game. So get out there, take pride in the fact that you're going to have the opportunity to help make a difference and create a rowdy atmosphere at Dowdy Ficklin. And you look at this. That was a great point earlier by Justin Butts as far as the first game of 4 straight against future Big 12 opponents. So what better way for East Carolina to show that that's where it should be than to show up to the game and to show the nation at 7:30 on ESPNU, create a rowdy atmosphere for 3.5 hours, however long it takes, and get this stretch of games off to a great start and really turn some heads around the nation, and then go out to Provo next week and do the same thing. So, Pirate Nation, a lot of times, we like to beat our chests and talk about how great Pirate Nation is, and we do have great fans, but let's show up and prove it on Saturday night.
Exactly. Show up, be extra loud, and stay for the whole game. Where are you going? There's no traffic jam. Stay for the whole game. It's exciting. It's fun. That game on Saturday night, oh my goodness, with those plays, I was on the edge of my seat. before a few years back, Montgomery, I'm just rolling my eyes like, oh my goodness, this is the longest game ever. Oh my goodness, we're getting killed. And now we're in every single game. You don't know who's going to win. You don't know who's going to lose. That's what college football is all about, Bubba. So excited about it. And by the way, we have great programming. I want to remind everybody that I'm really proud of our nightly programming. We have our daily program, if you will. Make sure you check that out because we've had tons and tons of great compliments. Thank you so much for people that are right here to letting us know, and then people in the street and different folks letting us know about that. Monday nights, we have Absolute Empowerment. That's with former strength and conditioning coach for East Carolina, Jeff Connors. We love Coach, and he said yes, and he's doing great with a number of amazing guests he's getting on. Even if you love Pirate football, back on the second episode, well, you can go back in our archives, and it was Coach Steve Logan. I've already listened to that interview like 3 times. I love Logan. In fact, Matt's coach. Tuesday nights, right here, Pirate Preview. We have that every Tuesday. Wednesday, Sonny and Semenza. We also have the Pirate Breakdown with Sutton Young. Thursdays, we have the Inside Slant. It's a weekly look at college football. We have on Friday, A Pirate's Life with me. And on Sunday, the Pirate Playback brought to you by LNK Custom Homes. So appreciate all of you guys listening and watching very much on a regular basis. And some of you watch every single show, which thank you. We will never turn you down for coming in and taking a look. Don't forget to like our Facebook page, and you can obviously subscribe on our YouTube channel. And that way you can find out whenever these shows are on, it'll pop up and do that. You guys, we obviously want to thank our great sponsors for sure. And anyway, I want to thank LNK Custom Homes. Appreciate Kevin Walker's support of the program, and we're going to do that. And want to thank him so much. 336-688-8461. Thank you, Kev. Appreciate you, KK Walker, very, very much for his support. In fact, he's a title sponsor. They are for the Pirate Playback on Sunday nights. How about our good friends at Porky's Backyard Barbecue, Cole, Mark, and Terry Holiday? The Holiday Brothers. Book your next holiday event. Call them. They cater. They do a great job. 252-661-0337. And last, but certainly not least, how about our friends at pgxgloves.com? Man, they have got everything. They've got so many great gloves for you. Let's see. They have custom batting gloves. They have football gloves, golf gloves. They have lots of great swag, T-shirts, so much fun. And make sure that you go to pgxgloves.com and get this. Before you get checkout, don't forget in the promo code, put in their ECU and get 25% off your order. That's ongoing. That's how much Kaz loves East Carolina and loves our show. Go to pgxgloves.com. Had a great time tonight. Thanks to Trace, our great guest. Appreciate him. We'll see how the Pirates do on Saturday night on ESPNU, 7:30 on television or radio. You can simply go to, you can listen on the TuneIn radio app, and you can do that, or listen locally on 94.3 The Game or 107.9 in the Greenville area. But the Pirate Sports Radio Network cannot wait. All right, thanks to Bubba, Matt. Again, thanks once again to Trace, our great guest, East Carolina UCF. This has been the Pirate Preview here on the Sports Objective. Good night, everybody, and always go Pirates.
I'm a pirate down of my soul, and I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode, from the sidelines down to the post. Put it down like not even close, all out to the last whistle blow. From the flag with the soul and crossbones. Everybody stand up, get your hands up, let a team know that we got they back. This is our house, this is our town, our top, everyone not copy that. Everybody in the stands go bananas, scream loud, but don't hold back. Every foot, every yard, every first down, every touchdown with the cannons blast. Get it on, get it all, get the wave going like a